into the world. And it's just so healing to say these words. And I've been speaking a lot to people about, there's a healing project that we're involved in of building a center for healing. That we are taught that Chizkiyahu Melech had the Sefer HaRefuos, had the Book of Healing. And the Book of Healing was a book that had all the secrets of healing in it. And it was a book that he hid. Why would he do that? Because people weren't going to God anymore. If you have all the secrets of healing, then you don't ask God for help. And God is the ultimate healer. Ani Hashem roifecha. I am God, your healer. But he only hid the book. And I feel like nowadays, people are getting this person's got he teared out a page, a little corner of the page over here. This person has a little section over here. This person has something there. This person understands breath work. This person understands plant medicines. This person understands deprivation, sensory deprivation tank technology. This person has the vibroacoustic, infrared, violet light, vibrational bed, which they have in NBA locker rooms. Just a cheap $50,000 bed, pashut. This person understands cold technology, which the tzaddikim, of course, always knew. Cold plunge, mikveh, crack the ice. This person understands areas of well-being, of song, of happiness, healing. And that the healing is going to be happening as we get closer to the end of days. One of the elements of healing that we're taught, and we talked about yesterday, was that Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu HaNavi, is going to bring great healing between parents and their children. And that's a major part of the entire unfolding of Eliyahu HaNavi. Like it says, V'heishav lev avois al bonim. At the end of days, the prophecies are such that the heart of the parents will come back to the children, and the children will come back to the parents. And therefore, make sure we call our mothers, make sure we call our fathers. And even though that in the end of days, there's a lot of, it's like a lot of baggage around parent-child relationships. But if this is what the end of the story really has in store, then it's very important for us to really embrace that now and to do our part, to do our best. So now the Rambam, and I just want to spend really a couple more days on Mashiach, then we're going to go to the 13th and the final of the Rambam's 13 principles and really round out the series. We've spent almost a year, I think, going over these 13 principles. Probably timestamp it exactly when it began. I think it's been about a year going through these 13 principles. And this is really core Jewish belief. And if anybody says that they want to become a Jew, or they claim to be a Jew, then it's really about understanding these 13 principles. I know in the past Kanye was talking about him being Jewish. And if he is, then he would just have to know these 13 principles. This would be a core to Jewish belief. And if somebody wants to convert, this is like the core of Jewish philosophy, the core of who we are, what we believe. And number 12 that we've been focusing on is Mashiach, is the core awareness of a messianic unfolding. That's important to know. That number 1 is the reality of God, number 12 is Mashiach. And number 13, which we're going to get to shortly, is the resurrection of the dead. It's amazing, it's number 13, so it looks like it's the end, it's like the 13th. But resurrection of the dead seems to imply it's like just the beginning. Yeah, it's the end of the beginning. It's the end of the beginning. The resurrection of the dead, which comes at the end of days, is just the end of the beginning of this long storyline that we're all on together. And therefore, as we're finishing these Mashiach Torahs, it's important to know that we're going to transition to the resurrection of the dead, and we'll see that that's all part of the Messianic unfolding. We're taught that there will be a resurrection of the dead in the era of Mashiach. Who will come back during that resurrection? It says only righteous people. Only the righteous will come back for that resurrection. Then there'll be another resurrection, and we'll go into this in detail. The second resurrection will be after the 1,000 years of Shabbos, and that will then begin the world to come. So it's important that we know that the era of Mashiach is different categorically than the world to come. The era of Mashiach is in this world. The era of Mashiach is a time of tremendous beauty and bounty and blessing in this world. This world, here we are, terra firma. This world, planet Earth, with humanity, with nations, but we're going to see absolute peace on earth, which is the very exciting part. Isn't that very exciting? There's going to be peace. And one of the mitzvahs is that, see peaceably, Yeshua, that you're asked to imagine and yearn and help bring Mashiach. One of the things I like to think about is that every single post on Twitter is going to be so positive. Every post is going to be so uplifting, so unifying, so positive. Like the way it is today, right? Every post, every comment is going to be unified under the one God. It's a very, very exciting reality we're coming into. So another way to do that is you guys start. Be the positive ones.
The whole fun of Twitter.
The whole fun of it. So maybe Mashiach's not going to be fun as we realize it. You know, I prefer world peace than just like the fun of it, watching a bunch of guys go at it. But that's kind of the craziness of part of the lower consciousness of the human being, is that they'll put two people in a coliseum and really get excited about watching them mess each other up. You ever seen an MMA fight? When the guy hits the guy in the face, the crowd go, oh, whoa. What about that getting that excited by chakras? Whoa! Hey, Shmei Rama! No. Man breaking man's nose, blood everywhere. Oh, jaw dislocated. Yeah! Let's go. Are we sick? Yeah, we're sick. Mashiach's not here yet. We're still sick. So you're right, I'm sorry. It's the fun of it. The buzz will be gone. The sick buzz of people just going at it will be gone. Because we're actually going to start building up other human beings. We're going to focus on their positive traits as opposed to all their negative ones. But I think I'm willing to trade that in for world peace. What about you? I think it's time. And I'll tell you who agrees. Mashiach. So the Messianic era will be a time, as we spoke about, tremendous peace. Tremendous peace. There will be some bumps along the way, but it will end in peace. And that's the final goal, is that we arrive at peace. So the Rambam continues, Bimei HaMelech HaMashiach, in the days of King Messiah, which means this is the end of days. Kishetis Yashiv Mamlachtoi, when the kingdom has settled. V'yiskabtzu elav kol Yisrael. And all of us become unified. It's exciting. All of us become unified. Yisyachasu kulam al pi v'ruach hakodesh shetanuach alav. This is amazing. Is that we see here that Mashiach will be a Baal Ruach HaKodesh. He'll be a person that has the divine spirit that rests upon him. He'll speak words of inspiration, of almost prophetic powers. That we'll see a real return to the world of Ruach HaKodesh. That's pretty exciting. Imagine living in the times of the Arizal, when Ruach HaKodesh was filled, walking the streets of Tzfas. They say that the Chayzim Lublin, everybody hear the Chayzim Lublin? The Chayzim Lublin, who, by the way, his kever in Lublin, which is like a little spot off the beaten track in the old cemetery there, has an ore, has a light. It's one of the most powerful oiris that I've felt by Kivrei Tzaddik. It's very humble. It's very powerful. The Chayzim Lublin, the great seer of Lublin in Poland, in Lublin, right near the great illustrious yeshiva Chachmei Lublin. Chachmei Lublin started by Reb Meir Shapiro, Daf Yomi. His two children, Daf Yomi and creating Chachmei Lublin. You had to know 500 blat, 500 pages of Gemara, Baal Peh, Gemara Rashi Tosfos, to get in. There were people of this generation that learned there. That's just to get in. By the way, they didn't need many Gemaras on the shelves, because if you needed to learn something about Baba Kama, so you'd say, oh, that Yid over there in the seat in the back, hey, Baba Kama, can you just, what does it say there on Daf Tzadi Beis? So he would tell you the whole daf. That was just the baseline. People knew a lot more than that. So it's amazing that the Nazis, Yimach Shemo, V'zichro, so they came and they heavily damaged Chachmei Lublin. When they came in and they were decimating everything, and it's actually very, very eerie that there are camps right on the edges of Lublin. As if to say, like, people knew what was going on and there were mamish camps right there. And Chachmei Lublin was a place that even though they had shot the whole place up, the buildings stood. And you could still go there to visit today, and there are groups, thousands and thousands of Jews that go to Lublin, Chachmei Lublin, just to sit in the Beis Medrash. And he built the yeshiva that was not, in those days, like they put up whatever money they could together. He said, you know who the kings are? B'nai Torah. Man Malchei Rabbanon. So he built the yeshiva that had like the classic double stairway going up, like a place of Malchus, like a palace. And you walk in and you just feel like this is a palace of learning, a palace of Torah. And to this day, they made it into a hotel that you can go and you could stay there in Lublin. So the Chayzim Lublin, at his Passover Seder, you could come to the Seder if you were a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, if you had divine inspiration flowing out of your lips. At his Passover Seder, he had 250 people sitting at his Seder that were all Baalei Ruach HaKodesh. Could you imagine? Well, he was a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, so he knew if you had Ruach HaKodesh. And he was the Chayzer, he mamish knew. He looked into them. If you were a Baal Ruach HaKodesh, then you were able to sit by the Seder. And it says that he would sit the entire Pesach Seder with his talus over his head. And when they were saying the Haggadah, when they got to the part of the Haggadah, it says, we're learning the Psukim in the Torah, and it says, B'moira Gadol, speaking about us coming out of Egypt, B'moira Gadol, with great awe. And the Gemara says there, Zu Gilui Shechina. This is the revelation of the Shechina. So he took his talus up from over his head, and they saw his face for the first time, the light of the Shechina. And they said the Yid HaKadosh saw this, and all his teeth fell out on the spot. He saw Gilui Mamish. Now, you don't want to have Ruach HaKodesh because like it's a cool thing to like. We have an unbroken communication. Now, does that mean they mamish literally popped out? Or like something about what teeth mean came out? Mamish. So David HaMelech is going to be a Baal Ruach HaKodesh. And we're going to see the world become filled again with prophetic thoughts, feelings, energy, light. Is Yachsu kulam al piv beruach hakodesh yanuach alav shenemar v'yoshav mitzaref umetaher. He's going to be purifying people. Ubnei Levi mitaher techila. That's an amazing thing. He's going to be purifying. There's going to be this purification happening. Ve'omer ze miyuchas kohen. He's going to know who is a real Kohen, who's a Levi. How would he know that? The Rambam says with Ruach HaKodesh, based on the pasuk, the verse in Malachi. He's going to smell, to shmek. V'doiche es she'ene miyuchasim liYisrael. And somebody who thought he was a kahuna. Now, it's interesting. What do we see about Eliyahu? He wasn't being involved in this, according to the Rambam. The Mashiach is the one that's going to be involved in this. The main thing that Eliyahu is going to do is introduce Mashiach. And Eliyahu is going to help you with his last items. And Eliyahu is going to heal the relationships with parents and children. Mashiach is going to be involved, according to the Rambam, with understanding all the genealogy. Specifically, we see the genealogy of who's a real Kohen and who's a Levi and who's Yisrael. Of course, the acronym of Kohen, Levi, Yisrael is what? Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. It's the acronym Kali, is the vessel to bring God's light into the world. Through the Kohen, the role of the Kohen, through the role of the Levi, through the role of Yisrael, that's a kli, that's a vessel to bring God's light into the world, to receive God's light in this world. And the verse says in Ezra, my friends, until Mashiach comes. From the day that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, we did not have the Urim v'Tumim. What were the Urim v'Tumim?
Calling God will wear them and we light up with questions by the teacher.
So the Urim v'Tumim is a big discussion. Remember we talked about the Rambam and the Ramban? This is one of their big discussion points. What was the Urim v'Tumim? Was the Urim v'Tumim God's names put behind the choshen, the breastplate of the Kohen Gadol? It's Rashi. And that when the Kohen Gadol would go into a state of prophecy, he would see the gemstones lighting up based on the names of God that were there. That's Rambanian. So according to Ramban, the Kohen Gadol saw the different letters lighting up on the breastplate. According to the Rambam, remember the Rambam is going with a rational approach. He's not into stones lighting up. According to the Rambam, the Urim v'Tumim and the Choshen were essentially a meditative crystalline device that the Kohen Gadol could go into a state of meditation, seeing the organization. And there are charlatans out there that are misusing gem therapy, but understanding the role of these gemstones, arousing a meditative experience, and then seeing them light up in his mind. That's the Rambam. So if you were standing there, just like watching the Kohen Gadol go through this prophetic experience with Choshen, so according to the Ramban, what would you see? See stones lighting up. According to the Rambam, you wouldn't see anything. Because it was all happening in the mind of the Kohen, Rabbi Isai. It's so important to remember to learn the world both through the lenses of the Rambam and the Ramban. I'll tell you the truth. The deeper I go into Rambam, the Rambam. I grew up more like Rambanian, like a little bit more. Yeah, the more, the esoteric reality it's like more exciting. The Rambam is very into an esoteric reality in your mind. It's all happening, the depth of the powers of the human mind. And the koyach hadimoyon, and the prophetic experience that happens in the mind of the pineal gland. And isn't it interesting that the world's pineal glands are being calcified over? More and more and more and more. That if all the pineal glands of the world are being calcified, according to the Rambam, that is the vessel where the prophecy is coming into, that kli has to be healthy. You know what one of the best pineal gland activators are? Your tefillin. They're literally over your third eye, which is going this way, inside. And of course, pineal is Pnei Kel, the face of God.
And where Yaakov fought that angel.
That's right. So what are people doing nowadays? They're taking DMT and they're opening up the pineal gland. You know what I suggest? Pot, Rosh Hashanah, put on tefillin. Put on tefillin. There was a Chabad rabbi who passed away recently. So he was one of the early shluchim of the Rebbe. And he, in the 60s, was going to some of these, some of these spots. And he had a big sign. Free LSD, free pot. So you know what I'm saying? Everyone's pulling up. Rabbi, where's the LSD and where's the pot? He's like, right here. Pot, put on tefillin. LSD, let's start davening. Free, boys. We should have a wonderful day. Amen. Amen. Kol tov.